Welcome back, MTG Joe here. Today we are going to be looking at the weekly metagame breakdown for the Explorer Best of 3 traditional Explorer format on MTG Arena. We're going to look Diamond Mythic rank. The ladder reset is going to happen in like 5 hours, so I'm camping. Hopefully you've locked up a great position, but if not, and you're looking to kind of hit the mark and get Mythic quick, get a nice position for next month, we're going to look at the top performing decks right now. Per Untap GG, Companion Tool runs alongside Arena's client, aggregates user win rates, gives a bunch of stats. All in all, there's not been huge volumes of games in an Explorer Best of 3. It's not the highest played format. There's a dedicated group of folks who do enjoy the format. So we're going to kind of look at what the highest win rates are. You will see some inflated win rates. The population is a little small, but we're going to kind of see how the most recent set has been influencing the metagame. So we are going to look down at Mythic rank. Like I said, I'll paste and timestamp all these deck lists. In terms of popularity of the deck, what you're most likely to encounter on the ladder from Diamond to Mythic rank, both Mono Red and Rakdos Demons make up just a shade under 15% each of the meta. We also have an increase of Izzet Phoenix from past weeks at 12.7%, and then Quintorius Control. There hasn't been like there was a metagame challenge 2 months ago, or a month and a half ago. There hasn't been much since. The mono white deck that was popping up for a while with Caretaker's Talent, the Battlefront kind of Coco effect, it did well for me in the metagame challenge. Like I was winning games with it, but every list that I've seen has been sub 50% win rate. So I guess the meta kind of shifted from when we were playing at the metagame challenge. But kind of just, we saw Rakdos Demons always kind of consistently, like look at this kind of trend, just upwards of 30% on its own. It's kind of normalized with the increase of Mono Red, which was kind of hitting it in that regard. We have 5,500 games played in the last week, 20 game cap, so we can get some details. If we don't take it off 20, we go from 22 deck lists to 6. So it's pretty narrow as you kind of go up into larger volumes. So Izzet Phoenix, highest win rate deck, 93%, but 30 games, still pretty significant like win rate. The biggest kind of addition, we're seeing Corey Steelcutter. There was kind of 2 lists. There's one that was playing a full set of Corey Steel in the main. This one's doing a 1-3 split, so some more Corey Steel. This deck's naturally looking to cast multiple spells per turn, which enables the Corey Steel's ability. So you have the Phoenix line, and now you have another backup line, which is very powerful, that doesn't heavily rely on you having access to your graveyard, which is one way you can hate out this deck. You also have Temporal Trespass. So this is one of the cards that came in Pioneer Masters. Delve, you get to take an extra turn. So you have the kind of combo with Delve, Galvanic Iteration to get 2 extra turns and win that way there. Otherwise, the deck's just a bunch of cantrip style effects. You kind of self-mill with Picklock Prankster. You draw discard with Artist Talent to put Phoenix in the yard. Then you have, like I said, the full set of Corey Steel. You have a Null for artifacts or enchantments. A Braid, really good in kind of the Corey Mirrors, just cheap removal. Flexible effect, can also deal with various graveyard hate pieces. Aether Gust for the red decks and the odd green deck. Negate against creature decks. You have Thing in the Ice that can kind of bounce their board. Good blocker early. Anger, Brotherhood's End as sweepers. Mystical Dispute is a cheap counter. And Prismari Command can deal with hate pieces, another looting style effect, and removal. Moving on, we have Mono Red Aggro, 83%. So there's basically kind of 2 versions that I saw on the ladder. The kind of flex spot is the Hired Claw. I've seen some lists that are playing 2 Tursas instead of it. Some of them are on 1 Bone Crusher Giant, 2 Witchstalker Frenzy. So it's really about customizing it to see, like Bone Crusher could be better in the mirror just because it's a little bit easier to cast than Witchstalker Frenzy. Witchstalker can hit Shieldred, so if you're running with more demons, that's another way you want to kind of look at it there. But you're seeing the full Sunspine Links, Screaming Nemesis. It's kind of the mono red deck of standard, but with the addition of Kumano, Bone Crusher Giant, and then Mutavault acts as a mouse. So you can take advantage of Rockface Village on it. You can take advantage of Manifold Mouse on it, and it's much cheaper to activate than Soulstone Sanctuary. Then in your sideboard, just more frenzies. You have Urbrass Forge as well as Chandra for kind of the grindier removal matchups. Magebane, very good into like Phoenix, Corey Steel decks, Prowess decks. Even against Control, sometimes I bring it in. Even the 4 toughness is relevant against a lot of the sweepers that are 3 damage based removals. Torches, cheap removal, Rending Volley for blue and white hate, Red Cap Melee for the red decks, and Ghost Vacuum for graveyard hate. Rakdos Demons, 69%. So your Unholy Annex, this card dropped a lot in price. Just picked up a set. I remember selling the one I opened for like 15 bucks, and then I bought about 3 for 15 bucks afterwards. So you have your Archfiend the Dross, Shielder is kind of your top end. You have Unstoppable Slasher, Honorary Demon, just kind of puts pressure, Sticky Threat, Fable. You copy your demons, copy Unstoppable Slasher. This version's on fewer copies of Fear of Missing Out. Some of these as well, you'll see Blade of Oni instead of Unstoppable Slasher. Blade allows you to have another demon on curve, so you could go Blade of Oni into Unholy Annex and get the drain right away. Otherwise, just a bunch of cheap interaction. Fatal Push, Torch, Thoughtseize, Duress, a Heartless Act, really good in the mirror because you can take off the counters from Archfiend, go for the Throat as just more collective removal. You'll notice the Urborg, make all your lands black, and then Mutavault in here, which works nicely with the Unholy Annex. Invoke for kind of the mid-range mirrors, enchantment decks, kind of slower decks. Fulgen's Command, Artifact 8, probably better now that you're seeing copies of Kori Steel, Hidetsugu for the low to the ground decks, Anger as a sweeper, as well as Meat Hook, Unlicensed Hearse for Graveyard Hate, and Duress. I would probably even see maybe a split with like Ghost Vacuum. Generally in like some of these matchups it can go long, so Ghost Vacuum being able to just reanimate stuff has some value. The downside is if you're bringing it also in matchups with Hidetsugu would hit the Ghost Vacuum. A deck that's been popping up is Mono Black Midrange. So similar concept with the Demons. You lose Fable, but you get access to Invoke in the main, cleaner mana. This one's on Liliana's main, Graveyard Trespassers. Gifted Aetherborn is useful against the aggressive decks, gain you some life. Murderous Rider in here. But a lot of the similar package, we see, like I said, the Blade of Oni, Unholy Annex line, Castle Lochwain as a value card. You're able to kind of play more colorless because you have Urborg to support it as well. Invoke again for the mid-range matchups, Control, Validas for the aggressive decks, Graveyard, things that are dying style effects, Extinction Event, Meat Hook as sweepers, Withering Torment for enchantment hate, that's also creature removal, Go Blank for hand hate and graveyard hate, Nowhere to Run for removal, and the rest for hand hate. We then go to Quint Combo, so release the Elephant Gas. So how this deck works, you'll see this curve is really inverted, but you're just basically trying to get to a point where you cast Quintorius or you cast Trumpeting Carnosaur and you eventually cascade down to both of these. You're either going to hit more copies of Quintorius, and then when you cast it from exile, you gain and drain. Spark Double stacks and becomes more copies of Quintorius. Release the Wind lets you exile and cast it again over and over and over and over again, so you get just basically drain them out of the game that way there. You have cards that circumvent casting costs. So Leyline Binding, it costs basically as little as 1 mana in this deck as removal. Vinewood Armadillos lets you channel to find basics and gains you some life. Greater Tanuki ramps you. So all these will not get hit by Quintorius, but give you that value. Beanstalk, same idea. Virtue Persistence is 2 mana removal. That gains you some life, keeps you alive. You have Karuga Companion that draws you cards as well. Dragonlord Dromoka for the counterspell decks. Also just a nice big lifelink body. Gyruda, just one's an interesting one. I don't know why Gyruda's in here. I'll be completely honest. This is actually a really cool way to play this card. It technically counts as 6 mana. So while it triggers Beans, for example, this doesn't get hit by Quintorius, but it is a 3 mana removal spell, which is kind of cool. For narration, 6 mana kind of reanimate style effect. So if they're removing your Quint or stuff like that, reanimate. Thought Distortion for the kind of counterspell heavy decks, control, stuff like that. Sky Turtle is like a tempo bounce effect. Consign is another removal kind of tempo play. Could also be discard, but more just bounce non-land permanent for 2 mana that doesn't get hit with. Mardu Greasefang, 56%. So we have Voice of Victory as another way to kind of protect the turn. It's a silence for your opponents, so they can't interact when you do your Greasefang line. Some of these, like I have this deck in paper. I'm going to try out the Broodwagons. Some of the decks are playing that. There's also a version that's not on Overlord that's playing like this random Kaldheim 2 mana demon that loots, coincidentally. I actually just ordered them in paper, so I'll get that name. And then they play on Holy Annex. So it's almost like a Demons mid-range deck that has a backup plan of Greasefang in there. So the card is called Immerstrom Raider. Just ordered them in paper. They literally came in yesterday. I don't love Valor Flagship. I'm on basically 4 Parhelions, 1 Skyship, and 2 Broodwagons. I just think the Valor Flagship, it's a lot of work to just 7 damage. Like, you get the lifelink, but on its own, like, Broodwagon like cycles itself. It's also removal. And the same with like Sky Sovereign, could usually pick off 2 pieces of removal on its own. That's how kind of the lists are oriented. Sideboard, we see 3 Unholy Annex in this, just for grindier matchups. Obnixis for the heavy kind of, you could basically shift out of the combo and then just play like a Mardu mid-range deck. Voice of Victory in here, more just copies against heavy kind of interaction, instant speed. Vanishing Verse, I think is really strong against like mono red, Demons decks, hits pretty much everything. License Hearse for Graveyard Hate, High Noon for any kind of the Phoenix deck, stuff like that. You can play Deafening Silence as well. And then Cathar Commando is a way to kind of deal with artifacts, enchantments. And then lastly, Dimir Control, 55%. So this is Yorion. Kind of think of it as like a Blink version that's just bigger mana. So this town with Storm Chaser's talent loops, you have Fear of Isolation, but you can pick up your Meathook Massacre after. You have Omen of the Sea that you can pick up. You have Narset, Gyre Reach Sanitarium that you can kind of Narset lock your opponent. Overlord of the Flood Pits can be bounced afterwards, and just a bunch of cheap removal, hand hate kind of effect. Yorion in the main board as well, just blink all these effects, get extra value that way there. Go for the Throat, cheap removal, cheap counters and negates, as well as Dispute, Graveyard Hate, and Unlicensed Hearse. Extinction Event, for great, like kind of a sweeper effect, 1 Shelly, and Paradoxical Outcome's a sweet card. You have so many cheap effects here that you could just pick up and then draw a ton of cards at like your opponent's end step. So for the grindier games, you can kind of just pick up and get extra value that way there. So that's it for the week. Let me know what you've been playing, what you've been liking. And if you have any Greasefang tech, I'm going to try to hit up FNN now that I got all my cards and play out the deck there. Thanks for watching, everyone. Hope you have a great one and stay safe out there.